Please take your seats. Good evening. I will now call the January 14th, 2025 meeting of the Ben Lapine School Board of Directors to order. I would like to introduce this evening to my immediate left, Directors Keena Chadwick, Cameron Fisher, and Shirley Olson. And Director Ross Tomlin is joining us virtually. To my immediate right, Superintendent Dr. Stephen Cook, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Lisa Burke, and Board Clerk Janet Bojanowski. And I am Amy Tatum, Board Director. We also have Quincy Bernal and Iris Marshall from Ben Senior High School, Elliot DeMartin from Realms High School, and Elena Tarr from Summit High School joining us from the Student Voice Council. Well, because I said it was me, because I'm not. Okay. Chair Marcus LeGrand and Vice Chair Carrie McPherson Dulles are unable to join us this evening. Yes, my board book is different than theirs because I was a last-minute person to run the meeting tonight, so I apologize. All right, and now would you please stand, remove your hats, and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think so. We will now move to agenda item 3, review of the agenda. Dr. Cook, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Fellow board members, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing no requests for changes, we will proceed with the agenda as noticed. So next, I will turn to Superintendent Cook for the district recognitions.
Okay, we have several recognitions that we're going to do tonight. We have, the first one is, I'm going to read a proclamation in appreciation of School Board Appreciation Month. Whereas Oregonians rely on public education to ensure a prosperous quality of life and strong economic health for Oregon, and whereas locally elected boards fulfill leadership roles and serve as the conduit through which teachers, parents, businesses, and communities demonstrate the care, creativity, and support that lead student achievement. And whereas public schools nurture and train diverse student populations to give students the knowledge, skills, and opportunities they need to succeed. And whereas board members build the framework that make it possible for educational organizations to teach Oregon's children. And whereas we thank the committed community members who serve on the boards of Oregon's 197 school districts, 19 educational service districts, 17 community colleges, and 7 public universities for their dedication to the educational needs of Oregonians. Now, therefore, I, Tina Kotek, Governor of the State of Oregon, hereby proclaim January 2025 to be School Board Recognition Month in Oregon and encourage all Oregonians to join in this observance. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the great seal of the State of Oregon to be affixed, done at the Capitol in the city of Salem in the state of Oregon on this day, December 19th, 2024. Let's give our board members a round of applause, please. Thank you. All right, our second of 3 recognitions. I am very honored to give this month's Champion for Students Award to a beloved 5th grade teacher at High Lakes Elementary School, Rod Davis. Please come forward. Now, come on, you got to come up. All right. We have a very unique way of introducing Rod to you all this evening, and it sounds like every person out here is your friend right now. It's crazy. It turns out we have our very own Rick Steves right here. Enjoy a short segment of a video he made from his summer travels for his fifth graders, a video that demonstrates one example as why Mr. Davis is such a wonderful and engaging teacher.
Greetings from the ABU. First, I want to share about my travels this summer, and I also want to give you a little history lesson. I'm walking along something called Route 66, which is a legendary roadway that goes back almost 100 years. It was established in 1998. Think of it as the Oregon Trail, but paved. So the Oregon Trail, you guys know about that, 1840s, 1850s. It has a special important place in my family history. From Oklahoma to Los Angeles in the 30s, and they traveled on Route 66. And my mom had traveled from Texas. So Route 66 is a special place in the Davis.
How about that, just for a second? Mr. Davis was nominated for this honor by parent Carrie Hicks. Here's what Carrie had to say. The fact that my seventh grade daughter still returns to his classroom to say hello and help out is maybe all that needs to be said. But brevity in describing Mr. D's excellence would be a shame. His compassion for his students and his deep desire to make learning a blast endure Mr. D to many, if not all, of his students. From his crazy hat collection that grows each year, to his character role in the studying of colonies, Mr. Davis is always seeking new and fun, often hilarious ways to engage with his students. He creates a community in his classroom that I've never seen before, and he promises to come to high school and attend students' graduations. Not a single one of us doubts his sincerity on that. At the end of summer, he puts together a summer travels video for all his current and former students. It's a highlight and includes fun history lessons. He is truly thinking of his current and past students 365 days a year. Principal Kimberly Sundberg states the following about Mr. D. Mr. D truly is a champion for students and families. His classroom procedures are engaging, rigorous, and designed with quality in mind. This all creates an environment in which students are able to turn state standards into real-life purpose. His dedication of time and ongoing humor, positivity, and joyful attitude make him one of High Lake's finest, and we adore him. P.S. It is true, we always have former students showing up to say hi, and he does attend former students' graduation. So, Rod Davis, in recognition of your compassion for your students and dedication to your classroom, your lessons are unique, rigorous, and designed for the success of every student. You create an environment in which students engage with the work and each other, turning lessons into real-life purpose. Your commitment and time and ongoing humor, positivity, and joyful attitude make you one of High Lake's finest and creates community beyond the walls of your classroom. Ben Lapine Schools is proud to count you among our champion of students. And we know he's not shy, so let's hear from Rod here.
I didn't know I'd be given the mic. So I will be honest. This is my 18th year teaching, and I am 57 years old. So I started teaching at the age of 40. And it took me a long time to find my footing, as in not 3 or 4 or 5 years, but probably 12 years, and the pandemic to find my footing. But with the help of the school district, great administrators, a great school, but most importantly, families and amazing students at High Lakes Elementary, you know, a great teacher there. And we have some High Lakes teachers here as well for another recognition of Michelle Ocker, which is fantastic. And thank you to Kimberly and Tom as well for joining us, and all the other High Lakers out there. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it very much.
Okay. No. Come here. We need to get a photo. Come on, guys. We need to come up. Come on. Come on. Kim and Tom, you too. Come on.
Ben and Quinn, come on.
Come on. Surround him with this. Come on. Come on. Nope. And there you go. Thank you. Absolutely. Right up in front. Maybe take a knee. Right up in front.
Fresh from the town.
All right, one last applause for Rod. All right. Okay. All right, Michelle, you're up next.
Thank you, School Board, for having us here this evening. We are here to recognize the accomplished teaching of the new and maintaining National Board Certified Teachers. My name is Michelle Oakes. I am a National Board Certified Teacher, Early Childhood Generalist. I'm also the Mentor Program Coordinator for Ben Lapine Schools and the State Lead for National Board. I initially certified in 2000, recertified in 2010, and recertified in 2020.
And I'm Heather Anderson, and I am a National Board Certified Teacher, Middle Childhood Generalist. I am on the Board of Directors for the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. I certified in 2005, 2015, and 2000, and today. And I have been coaching along with Michelle, National Board Certified Teachers in Ben Lapine Schools for the past 12 years.
Where's it going?
All right.
I need to, oh, there we go.
One more further. All right, so today we're here to recognize National Board Certified Teachers, and these are teachers in our district tonight that have shown, put in a lot of hard work to meet the standards of National Board certification. National Board maintains high and rigorous standards and certifies teachers who meet those standards. They support efforts of accomplished teaching and lead in the profession. Ben Lapine Schools leads the state in the number of National Board Certified Teachers. Though we are not the largest district in the state, we do have the largest amount of National Board Certified Teachers. So we're very excited to get to celebrate these teachers tonight. All right. Our newly certified teachers that we'll be recognizing tonight are Jane Alexi from Caldera High School. Jane is an English as new language teacher. And Jane says about the process, the final products I created and submitted to the National Board represent a fraction of the knowledge I gained about my practice and profession in the process of acquiring my certification. In gathering data, crafting descriptions, and refining reflections, I was able to more fully understand the significance of my work. I would recommend the experience to any teacher eager to dig deeper into the meaning of their profession and practice. Michelle Ocker, High Lakes Elementary. Michelle is an early childhood generalist. The national board process helped me to be more student-centered and intentional about my practice and reflections. It was incredibly rigorous and forced me to grow and persevere in ways I couldn't have imagined when I first signed up. I'm so thankful to our local MBCT community and mentors. I certainly would not have done it without them. And Danica White, Pine Ridge Elementary. Danica is unable to be with us tonight. Danica is a middle childhood generalist. She says that National Board Certification has made me a better teacher by helping me reflect on my practice, refine my strategies, and work more effectively with my colleagues. It's helped me focus on what my students need most, making my teaching more meaningful and impactful.
And so those were our 3 brand new National Board Certified teachers. Stay up there, stay up there. I told you you're gonna be up there a long time. And I just wanna share that National Board Certification takes a minimum of about 100 hours in order to certify. So this is not done lightly, and so congratulations. We have 7 National Board Certified teachers who are maintaining their certification, which they do every 5 years. We have Heather Anderson. Heather is from Juniper Elementary. She is a middle childhood generalist. I became a National Board Certified teacher in 2005 and have recertified twice. This process has directly improved my teaching practice and is truly the most impactful professional development I have experienced. We have Jane Bonsgard. Jane is from Pacific Crest Middle School. She is a Science Early Adolescence MBCT. I appreciated that the process of maintaining my certification made me focus and prioritize professional development opportunities, which all had tools that I could take into my day-to-day teaching. Sarah Durfee. Sarah is also from Pacific Crest Middle School and is also a Science Early Adolescence. The process of maintaining my National Board Certification helped me focus on reflective practices that directly impacted student achievement. In my 28 years in education, it is the best tool I have used to strengthen my skills as an educator. Jane Shane. Jane Shane is also from Pacific Crest Middle School and is a Science Early Adolescence, NBCT. National Board Certification has been instrumental in my continued growth as an educator by challenging me to reflect and respond to the needs of my students. During this process, I collaborated with incredible colleagues to increase opportunities for students to actively engage with science, build connections with peers and community members, think critically, and improve data literacy. Vicki Stottinger. Vicki is currently at Bend High School. She is an English Language Arts Adolescence Young Adult MBCT. The process of renewing my certification enhanced my practice of reflection. The questions I answered in my commentary forced me to explain the decisions I make and choose better for my students where I can. Sarah Traxelis. Sarah's from Caldera High School and is also a Science Early Adolescence NBCT. The process of maintaining my certification motivated me to try many new strategies to get students talking and collaborating about specific practices and ideas. The process of maintaining helps me to be a more creative and open-minded teacher, which helps my students be more creative and open-minded scientists. And Michelle Zeigert. Michelle is from Highland Magnet School and is an early childhood generalist, NBCT. Maintaining my certification has enhanced my teaching and fostered strong collaboration with colleagues, allowing us to share best practices and support one another in our professional growth. With this experience, I feel empowered as a leader to advocate for high educational standards and to mentor fellow educators. Congratulations to all of our new and maintaining MBCTs.
You want to join the photo? One last round of applause for our National Board Certified Teachers. I invite you all to stick around for the rest of the meeting if you want.
Usually they wait till public comment to leave. We're gonna let them. All right. Thank you. We will now welcome the Education Foundation to present their annual report.
Hello, my name is Jamie Goldman,
And I'm Ann Westerhoff.
and we are the executive directors for the Ben Lapine Education Foundation.
Our goal here today was just to inspire you guys with a little bit of report of happiness on what the foundation's been up to impacting our schools.
So since 1988, we have given over $2.5 million back to the Ben Lapine School District. And as most of you know, we empower students and educators of the Ben Lapine School District to create a brighter future.
And we accomplished this based on our 3 buckets of focus, which are activity fee scholarships, perseverance awards, and classroom enrichments.
Our activity fee scholarships are a big focus for us. They not only provide financial aid for participation fees for sports and clubs activities, but they, also support the students that incur financial hardships to pay for those fees.
So far, since we've been supporting our students, we've directly impacted over 9,000 students, middle and high school students within the Ben Lapine School District, which is pretty amazing.
Next up are our Perseverance Awards. In conjunction with the Axel F. Hoke Legacy Scholarship, the foundation provides scholarships for vocational, community college, and university students to study at any educational institution in Oregon for up to 4 years.
These scholarships range from full ride scholarships all the way to final dollar support so that 100% of their expenses are covered.
Recipients of this award have persevered through unimaginable circumstances, things like housing insecurity, abuse, family illness, and poverty, to name a few.
This year, thanks to an amazing endowment, we have 11 recipients who've been given a life-changing opportunity to continue their education. Next year, the program budget will hopefully double as we gain even more community support so that we can have a whole new class of seniors and double the benefactors of this amazing program.
Next up is our classroom enrichments.
This is the good one.
This is our favorite. Twice a year, the foundation provides district-wide support via our classroom enrichments, which everyone knows as classroom grants.
Our continued goal is to level the playing field and eliminate obstacles to learning by making sure all students have access to experiences that will enrich their educational experience.
Last year, for the first time, we did a fall and spring cycle of grants. We funded $92,000 for the entire year.
And so far this fall, we've already funded 87 grants, which total over $96,000. And we were able to fund 83% of the applications that we received.
And thanks to the support of our community partners, we were able to impact over 11,700 students.
And then as you can see from the pie chart up there, the wide variety of grants that we've impacted. We had a big focus on social and emotional well-being this year, as well as STEM, language arts, CTE was a big focus.
Our spring cycle opens for the month of February. Emails will be sent out to the staff next week.
Yeah, so just remind everybody. And then on the next.
sorry.
On the next slide, this is some images that highlight some of the grants that we funded in action. We had some CTE programs at Bend Tech and Bend High.
The theater club events at Ponderosa Elementary.
There were vernier carts for Summit High School's physics classes.
Xylophones, marimbas, and other ORF instruments to enhance music programs at Bear Creek, Lava Ridge, Pine Ridge, and Summit.
And bike safety at High Lakes, just to name a few.
Our goals for the 2024-2025 school year, our goal is to award more than $200,000 in Perseverance scholarships
$120,000 in classroom enrichments.
and $22,000 in activity fee scholarships.
And then just a save the date reminder, our biggest fundraiser of the year is our annual trivia night. It goes to support our classroom enrichments, which will only greatly impact our entire school district. It takes place at Silver Moon Brewing, and it's 36 teams of 3 people who are competing in 3 rounds of trivia. We have business sponsors, that's community partners that sponsor the teams, and the teams can be made up of our very own educators throughout the district, which is really fun, or the teams can do their employees and friends.
And so we do 5 rounds of trivia, a costume contest, a night of fun audience participation, a raffle, and possibly an auction as well.
So everybody save the date. We hope to see you at trivia night, and we just wanted to share some goodness that we've been doing out in the world.
Any questions?
No questions, but I just want to have the opportunity to say that I have been privileged to be a liaison from the board to the Educational Foundation, and these 2 are absolutely amazing. Thank you, Jamie and Ann, and thank you for being here. And $100,000 is just piece of cake.
Thank you.
We've got big goals. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having us.
So,
Hold on, I think
So-
Ross
so
has a question
Jamie and-
online.
yeah, Jamie and Ann, I'm just curious, that's some amazing work you're doing. What are some of the ways you are raising funds for all this? You mentioned some of the activities you've got and events, but what else you're doing? 'Cause you're raising a lot of money.
So we do our trivia night every year. We'll do a couple rounds of bingo at Silver Moon also, which was super fun. We do a lot of foundation grants. Britta Pels is our grant writer, and she's amazing. Our board gets out there and talks to people. We have a lot of donors that are repeat donors from year after year.
And just building community partnerships with local businesses who want to support the impact that, a good education has in our community.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing. I was curious, did you say that every staff member gets an email ahead of time for the deadlines for the spring and fall cycle?
Yeah, so we've been working with Scott and Lisa. Thank you both for helping get the word out. And we'll also email out to the office managers at each school. And so that way everybody gets it. It's on socials, it's on our website as well, about the spring classroom enrichments. And we're also sending out a flyer for both trivia night and classroom enrichments next week.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, and we will now hear from Dan Emerson, Chief Financial Officer, for the second quarter financial update.
It's on now, yeah. Thank you, Board of Directors. For the record, Dan Emerson, Chief Financial Officer at Ben Lapine Schools. Here today to present the second quarter financial update for fiscal year 24-25. And so this information that's being presented is based on actuals through December 31st, 2024, so a couple weeks back here. This report is not up on the big screen due to, it just gets condensed and it's very hard to read. So it's on your agenda packets. You should have paper copies as well, but it's structured in such a way that we go over total revenues and then total expenditures and then ending fund balance. So to start off, differences from the first quarter report, we are looking at a revenue decline in our projections of 1.4 million since the first quarter financial report. This is primarily due to the assessed value growth of the tax revenue being projected at in the budget at 5.1%, and it's actually coming in at 4.6%. And so if you look at your financial report, you'll see that that's a reduction in our current projection, or excuse me, our Q1 projection by about $850,000 from the last projection. Are there any questions about assessed value growth or kind of the tax implications? Okay. And so although that came in lower than projected, we will see a reconciliation for that with respect to next May, fiscal year 26's May. We'll see those funds come back in as the state processes them. Secondarily of note, our state school fund, our projection for our state school fund has decreased by, I believe, about 600,000, although it's still more than 300,000 over what we budgeted. And the reason for that is that we've seen slightly larger than predicted decrease in enrollment since our first quarter report. Last fiscal year, I believe we had about 33 students that kind of dropped off of our enrollment rolls from October 1st to just January 1st, and this year we've had 91 students. And so because of that, we'll see a little bit less of the state school fund actuals coming in during this period. It is always anticipated to have a decline, so that's pretty normal. It's just a little bit larger than expected. And the specific breakdown of those 91 students is from the last enrollment report. We've seen a decrease of, 61 students in high schools, 42 students in middle schools, and elementaries have actually increased by 12 students, which is really good because if you'll recall from our last report, elementaries were actually down about 170 students, and now they're only down about 150 from our budgetary projection. High school were up a couple hundred, and now they're still up a couple hundred, but there's been a decrease. So that's kind of it for revenues. In terms of expenditures, we have had more time to discern what our payroll and our salaries and benefits is going to look like through the fiscal year, and we're projecting that due to vacancy savings and not having been able to fill actively recruited positions, we'll have about a $3 million savings in payroll. And so although our revenue is projected to be down from the first quarter report, our expenditures are also projected to be down by nearly $3 million. And of course, we always put our best efforts into recruiting for those positions. Those positions are needed. We budgeted them, we allocated them, so we'd like to fill them. But as is right now, we are looking at that vacancy savings, and we actually can use that going into a year where our PERS liability, as you all know, has gone up higher than expected, and we have some forecasted issues in terms of budgetary and staffing levels in the future. So although we don't like to see a large vacancy savings, this can be a helpful tool for us. Any questions about expenditures? Okay.
Ross, I was going to say, Ross online, do you have any questions?
Well, not necessarily about expenditures. I was just curious about the percent reserves. I noticed it's right about 10% into this quarter. And what do you anticipate it's going to be by the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah.
Will it stay the same?
That's a great question, Director. And we're going to just cover ending fund balance right now. And so I'll kind of get into that. We do expect that with resources being projected as $1.4 million less and expenditures $3 million left, that we will end up with an ending fund balance of $1.6 million more than we projected in the first quarter, which is great. And so that excess would be, total beginning fund balance would be approximately $24 million, which would be over the 5% reserve policy. And so we'll need to look at how that gets distributed out. There's also some budgetary, it's 5% of what we call our general fund, Fund 100, but we also have a reserve in Fund 800, and they all roll up to a general fund type. And so that's a little bit That's kind of an accounting nuance, but overall, we try to have it exactly at 5% as both a minimum and a maximum, no variation, and we try not to go over that or underneath that for any reason. And the 5% level right now is used for cash flow because as is, we pay 3 paychecks or really about 2.5 paychecks out to staff in June. And so our actual cash gets very low at that point in time, and we have to dip into, from a cash flow perspective, a banking perspective, we have to use that reserve in order to cover those costs. I have some other concerns about just the reserve level in general and if it needs to be a little bit higher, but that's part of the strategic initiatives that finance is looking at, and maybe we can come back in with a report to this board at a different time. So overall, good news, the ending fund balance, which is next year's beginning fund balance, is looking $1.6 million higher. And so this is fairly good news with regards to our finances. Are there any questions related to our quarterly financial report tonight? From, you know,
Did you say 1.6 million higher?
And also welcome any questions from the Student Voice Council as well. Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, just going to go over a couple other things. The annual comprehensive financial report was completed, and so there's an item for that that'll come back for later tonight and talk about that in more detail. But just so you guys know, our auditors did give us a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion that you can get, and it really shows that we have transparent and excellent accounting. And I want to thank all of our accounting staff for all the hard work that they did during this. You know, this is an audit that takes from August to December. They go over roughly 700,000 transactions, and they sample those, and we have to show them actually literally about 100 different ways. And they have a whole team of auditors come in, and big, lots of appreciation to our accountants, and Nick Shane back here stepped in and did a wonderful job as well. And so very, very proud of all the staff in this school district. It's something to be very proud of, so.
Just a quick shout out to Nick, and he's not even the biggest winner in his household tonight. Yeah.
So the last thing in your financial statement package is an investment report. And so right now it's split up between operating funds and bond funds. The operating funds, we have about $62 million in operating funds that are in treasury bills right now. They're short-term, they're spaced out to mature over the next 3, 4, and 5 months, and that coincides with when we need to pay staff, kind of our payroll for that time period. And we've put those dollars into investments because our local pool has a max limit, and so this is the amount that we put in over that limit. We invest them in treasuries, and they receive about 4.18% average yield to maturity. So that will gain about $1 million in funds over the next few months, and we're really excited about that. Secondarily, we have bond funds, about $58.8 million that are used for the capital project specifically related to Bend High that will be maturing in the next 12 months. So any questions about investments? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan. Now we will hear from our Student Advisory Council.
Hi, thank you for having us. We've been doing a lot of productive work lately at the Student Voice Council. We just had a meeting, I think last week or something. We've divided into 3 different groups to spearhead 3 main issues that we've found all across our schools. We have a college and career group, we have a mental health group, and we have a bias instant group. I personally am a part of the bias instant group, and we're focusing on delivering our content more effectively and learning ways to make our bias lessons and our bias videos that we show to be more seen by our students and feel more relatable than they currently are. We have at least 1 representative from almost every school in each group that we have. Currently at Realms, where I go, I'm working with my leadership class to improve these videos and maybe have a community meeting, which is what we call assemblies, about bias lessons and bias incidents. My idea was to pull different students and different staff members from our school and have them share their whole story and to show our students that they are not alone in their experiences and to give them a better sense of community that they have. That is what I have.
Good evening. I am Quincy, a senior from Benn Senior High School. As mentioned previously, the Student Voice Council has been active in the past few months with our subcommittees. We found it to be rather ineffective for us to come together as a large group with our short meeting times once a month, so it was decided that we make the 3 subcommittees focusing on those 3 issues: mental health, bias incidences, and college and career readiness, so that we can divert our own time and attention to those 3 topics, both within Student Voice Council meetings and in our own times. Though I cannot speak on behalf of the efforts of the other subcommittees, I am a part of the College and Career Readiness branch that has been focusing on identifying tangibly how to measure college and career readiness within the different high schools. That way we can see deficiencies or strengths of the different high schools and find out more the root cause of what we can do as a district to aid schools that are struggling or raise up those in certain schools that have been providing meaningful effects to college and career readiness. Additionally, we're trying to identify key barriers to college and career readiness within schools and how we can combat them on a district level. Specific discussion has been made around the amount of career exploration that 9th and 10th graders are exposed to and the subsequent effects on their high school lives. We hope to provide our insights on how students are being prepared to make and follow through with their post-secondary plans and offer our relevant recommendations. Additionally, the board has developed an interest in creating a report to the board that has not yet begun, but will focus on the effects of technology within schools on academic performance. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to start by commenting, Quincy, I'm super excited to hear what you come up with, because that is absolutely very important work. I love that you're focused on what we can do better, how we can serve our kids, how we can get you to college and career. So yeah, I look very much forward to that. Directors, questions, comments?
I just want to welcome Elliot for her second time before us. Did you lose or did you win? No, I'm kidding.
I won.
No, thank you very much. Your commitment is really incredible. As well, both of you were in attendance at another very important meeting in December and appreciated your participation in that meeting. Kinsey Martin hosted that meeting, and it was very insightful. So thanks for being here and good work.
Thank you for being here. Question, Elliot, with the videos you're putting together at Realms, did I miss this? Are these potential videos for entire secondary, for high schools to use, or for school district overall, or is it just for Realms, for bias incidents?
It's going to be like district-wide. We want to pull different stories from different students and teachers all in the Ben Lapine School District, and either we will have them share out their own stories in those videos or we'll have someone else read those out. We did think about privacy reasons as well, because we know that can be it can feel like it's a huge target on your back. Which is why we would have our students or teachers' faces covered, and if they wanted to stay anonymous, then we can. We would likely put their grade, or if they're teacher or not, and maybe their school as well. We just want to make it feel more personalized and less generic in a sense.
I think that sounds fantastic, and it's a huge endeavor. And is this under the leadership class? Is that what you mentioned? Or is this something you're just taking on?
It's a mixture of both.
Okay, so you've got some support.
Mhm.
Okay, great. I think this is very much needed, so thanks for going
you.
for it.
Thank you both. I have a question about, do other students, if they have questions about, I don't know, anything or something that they may want y'all to pursue, can they reach out to Student Voice Council? Or what does that look like?
I'm not sure at the moment.
We, as a Student Voice Council, although we do represent the thousands of high school students as our constituents, we were not voted as an effect of them. The information we hear from our peers are the peers that are closest to us. There is no current direct way to get in contact with an SVC member to raise issues you would like to bring up with them, other than knowing them directly.
What do you think about that?
I think it would be actually a very important step in the Student Voice Council accurately representing high school students to have access to a Student Voice Council member, or even one of the Student Voice Council advisors, in Mr. Weatherald and Ms. Epniewski, to raise important issues that may not be perceived by our board members themselves and Student Voice Council members.
So maybe I misunderstood. At first, at one point, I thought there was an email for the Student Voice Council that students could access, or was that with something else? Was that through Jackie or something in the past?
Former advisor, Ms. Mueller, had access to that email. I am not sure as of the current state of it today.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And then Elliot, I'm sorry, I should know this, but what does Realms call the assemblies?
Oh, we call it, well, technically we call it crew-munity meetings,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
okay.
easier to say community meetings.
Okay. I know about crew, I don't know, okay.
Mhm.
And are those specifically for high school, or would those type of assemblies be for all of Realms?
It depends on the type of assembly that we do. We have had assemblies where we get both the middle school and high school together. We've had ones where it's just the middle school, just the high school. We've had literally every single grade have their own community meeting before. A lot of our meetings are also student-led as well, through different groups. So it just depends on the situation.
Thank you both.
Director Tomlin, any questions before we move on?
No, I'm just very impressed with both of you, and thank you for sharing that information with us all tonight.
Thank you. We will now move on to public comment. The board and district leadership value communication from students, families, staff, and community members as it helps to guide the work of Ben Lapine Schools. Public comment is just one of many avenues available to ensure this connection. Members of the public may always submit thoughts, questions, or concerns to the board via email as well as in writing. Individual board members also make themselves available for phone, video, and/or in-person conversations. This said, I want to remind the public that this is a meeting of the Board of Directors that takes place in the public, but it is not a meeting with the public. It is a meeting of the board to conduct district business. As such, the board will not respond to public comment made during tonight's meeting. Instead, issues may be recorded and referred to the proper staff person to follow up with you. We will now open for public comment and hear from stakeholders on topics in order that they appear on the agenda. A timer is provided on the screen to ensure every speaker receives updates during the presentation on remaining time. If the speaker goes over time, or if the speaker's message is not in adherence with our policies, for example, being personally directed, abusive, discriminatory, repetitive, or off topic, I may ask the speaker to cease and terminate that speaker's privilege to address the board. At this time, we've had one person sign up. Jennifer Groth, are you available?
I'm really nervous. On behalf of OSEA Chapter 6, we would like to take this moment to express our sincere appreciation to each and every one of you during the School Board Appreciation Month. As classified staff, we understand the dedication, hard work, and sacrifices that each of you make in your roles as members of the school board. Your leadership plays a vital part in shaping the educational experience for our students, as well as creating a supportive and sustainable environment for all staff members. Throughout the year, we recognize the countless hours you dedicate to making decisions that impact our students, our schools, and our communities. Your ongoing commitment to ensure success and well-being of all students, as well as supporting staff across all roles, does not go unnoticed. We deeply value the collaborative relationship we have with you and are grateful for the open dialogue and shared communication to the betterment of our district. As classified staff, we are proud to be part of a team that supports the educational goals of the district. Whether we are providing assistance in the classroom, maintaining facilities, offering transportation, or serving in many other essential roles, we know that our work complements the visions and efforts set forth by the board. The partnership between our union and the school board is integral to maintaining a strong, well-rounded educational system, and we look forward to continuing that collaboration in the years to come. Thank you for your unwavering dedication, leadership, and commitment to the students and staff in our district. We are grateful for your hard work and look forward to celebrating many more successes together.
Thank you. So we are now going to move into the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Director Tomlin has made the motion and Director Fisher has seconded the motion. Are there any requests to move anything from the consent agenda?
I have a request to remove. I have questions.
All right, what are the questions? So since there are no requests for any changes, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, so 5 in favor, 0 nays. All right, I will now turn to Superintendent Cook for the consent for information.
Thank you, Director Tatum. This month's consent for information includes the annual report on Executive Limitation 4.3, Financial Planning and Administration, as well as additional information regarding the EFA, which is the local wellness policy that was adopted at last board meeting. At the last meeting, there were questions regarding the sale of caffeinated beverages in our high school. This document provides more information and guidance on that topic. Also, last month, we had several tag policies in the consent for information. The district will continue to work on policy IGBBA-AP, Talented and Gifted Student Identification, to ensure alignment with the district's tag plan. We bring this policy back to the consent for information for adoption at a later date. We also have several policies that the district is adopting this month. Last month, several policies and regulations regarding admissions, attendance areas, and transfers went out for public feedback. We received some internal feedback that resulted in additional changes. You will note the additional changes in the green font on some of the policies. The additional changes further align the policies with current district practices. Also included are policies and regulations on special education evaluation procedures, student searches, and relations with our law enforcement agencies. An additional note, policy JFE-AP, pregnant and/or parenting students, is included in the board packet for adoption. However, just last night, OSBA released guidance recommending districts do not make changes to this policy due to recent federal court ruling. So at this time, the district will not be adopting any changes on JFE-AP. Since it was post notice, we did not have a chance to pull that, so we will be pulling that back at this point. I am glad to answer any questions you might have.
Was that pullback on the judge declaration about Title IX, about the changes to Title IX, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I had a couple questions. One, as far as feedback from last meeting with, it looks like there's only one school who does sell energy drinks. And I have a question. It said that, I'm curious about the times of operation. I think, for example, it shared that it's open from 8 to 8:40. Is that the only time that it's open?
If I'm correct, that is the only time it's open in the morning. Is it open in the afternoon? Not at that school, not at the particular school of interest. And Quincy, did you have a comment?
My comment was addressed by Ms. Martin.
Okay.
So I guess my only kind of concern about not having a tighter policy around that is that there's nothing about the hours of operation in which we would allow caffeinated beverages to be sold in our schools. You know, and quite frankly, like as a medical professional, I do not think Celsius energy drinks or any sort of energy drink should be sold anywhere in our schools, since we know that it's more than double, you know, it's double what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that an adolescent should have in an entire day in one can. And, you know, from my perspective in the medical community, I have definitely seen people with significant adverse reactions to caffeine that they often don't realize are associated with caffeine, like heart arrhythmias, so regular heartbeats, anxiety, sleep deprivation, and these are all things that our teenagers are struggling with anyways. So I do think it's worth the district still thinking about this as an issue that should be addressed in consultation with our medical community.
I appreciate that feedback, and we will definitely come back to you all with an updated report at a later date. Thank you.
I also had questions related to JFGAP student searches. I saw, JFGAP, yeah. There was in the student search form, I think it was the student search form, it does allow for a witness and their title and position, but I didn't see anywhere in the policy that a witness is mandatory.
Okay, so I want to make sure so the statement in the form, which is the JFG-AF in the form, makes space. So okay, I think I understand the question. So there's a current policy right now is that if an administrator believes, and the criteria is reasonable suspicion, if there's reasonable suspicion to believe that there's potentially a safety violation, the district, and this has been determined in case law quite thoroughly, actually, that reasonable suspicion is the good threshold for school districts to do that performance. And what that policy allows for is once that reasonable suspicion is established, then an administrator has the authority to do one of those searches. Those searches, if they happen, in which a student contact is happening, the expectation from our practice and administrative policy is that administrators are expected to turn on or to fill out the form and turn that into the district office. As far as whether or not it is required to have a witness, that is not currently in existence in policy, but if that's the feedback that you're suggesting, we can take that into consideration.
Yeah, for sure. I think about the power differential between an administrator and a student and them just being one-on-one. The other question, yeah, is that one-on-one?
Agreed.
Okay. The other question that I have is that it also states that student searches of outer clothing is done by someone of the same sex as the student. And I'm curious who makes that determination. Specifically, I think about potentially trans youth who may be born male, however identifies as female, and at whose discretion is it to decide who does the search?
The discretion would lie with the administration, and I think the question would be whether or not there is a level of comfort with whichever, and so that is what I think I'm hearing. Well, that's the answer to your question. That discrimination lies with the administrator, and I don't want to assume I know what your feedback is, so I want to make sure you have a chance to provide that feedback before I go any further.
I mean, I guess my feedback would be that that should be at the discretion of the student who does that search.
Okay, all right, thank you. Duly noted.
Anyone else?
I have a question, or at least a concern about the student searches and questioning, which is also kind of tied into the law enforcement protocol. Again, is a witness required for an interview? And I do understand the language that says compelling evidence or compelling concern about safety, et cetera.
Can I qualify the question first? Are we talking about an interview by an administrator, or are we talking about an interview by a law enforcement agent?
Interview by an administrator first.
Okay,
Then we'll
so an interview, so right now there is not a practice that would require
A witness.
a witness for an administrator to interview a student based upon some level of perceived disciplinary offense or possible offense. And I'm not certain that there's an interest at this point in putting that into policy, because hundreds of those happen across our district every single day.
And again, it does speak to whether or not a parent has been contacted,
Correct.
correct? So if there is no parent contact, then the student can accept that they be interviewed, correct?
Correct.
Just a clarification, and on the law enforcement, I think I understand that.
Yeah.
There are only some things they can do by
Correct.
law. So we don't have to worry too much about them,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And our resource officers would definitely come under that.
They do, I do want to clarify that there are points in which law enforcement officers are acting from the lens of the school district, but it's under the supervision, not supervision, it's under the auspices of the administrator doing that, effectively starting that investigation, if you will. An SRO would have to meet the threshold of law enforcement if they were going to choose that, which is not reasonable suspicion. That's a higher threshold for them. And so there are times in which it's more, from an administrative perspective, it's more beneficial for an administrator to take the lead on those particular issues, and law enforcement comes in later. The threshold is different for law enforcement.
I think we're just concerned, and I know that all these policies have been reviewed legally, at least by OSBA and probably by our own legal counsel.
Yes.
We are concerned, though, that every bit of student right and parent guardian rights, are reflected in those policies.
Understood.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just some clarifications maybe
Absolutely.
would be helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Director Tomlin, any questions? Okay.
No, not at this time.
I just want to remind us that we are working towards putting our hands on every single one of our 400 policies. And so there are times when you're going to see a large batch like this, and we will always try to provide those unless it's a simple grammatical change or something that doesn't have substantial change. We will always provide an opportunity for both community feedback and board feedback and administrative feedback. Thank you.
All
I
right.
will also add just that since we have adopted this sort of revision structure, we have gone through a review of very nearly all technically of our policies. Not quite like the substantive pieces of it, but from a technical aspect, we've touched very nearly all of them to date since this process was implemented.
Can you talk more about, like, can you explain more about, like, the technical pieces versus the content? Like, what does that mean?
I did open that can of worms, but Janet can help talk about this a little bit.
I mean, my main thing is, like, if we have policies here that are being updated or approved, then we should spend time on them, right? Yep. Okay, so, yeah, I'm just curious what that looks like.
Yeah, I think OSBA has often outlined like which things require substantive changes versus like, hey, here's an update of sort of language pieces or something that's more technical in nature. That's really what I'm speaking to, is that when OSBA has put out pieces that are like, here's little changes along the way, we have been able to, since this process was adopted, we've been able to sort of shepherd those through in a little bit more expeditious way than has ever been in place in our school district to date.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna question, like, why are these all caps now being brought down to proper, but like, but if there is something that in question, that like, this is the space to discuss that, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. We will now welcome Dan Emerson, Chief Financial Officer, back to present the annual comprehensive report.
For the record, Dan Emerson, Chief Financial Officer. And Director Chadwick, I would say I was part of many of the technical changes in terms of, to go back really quick to a lot of the policies, and a lot of them were just because we had the ones that I were involved with, because Brad Henry was both the CFO and COO, and now we have those positions split between myself and Paul Dean. We had to go back through every single one of the policies that had that and just change the titles and delineate the duties between. So they were very minor revisions, but the policy would not have been accurate with the current language. So that's a couple of those would be an example of that potentially. To the annual comprehensive financial report, I already spoke to it to some degree, but for those watching, we did the annual audit of our financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2024 has been completed. Our auditors, Sensiba LLP, have issued an unmodified clean opinion, and this is the best opinion available. All of the board of directors have a hard copy of our annual comprehensive financial reports and a digital copy. You can find all the various independent auditors' reports throughout that document. But as part of today's meeting, we are just asking the board to accept the presented annual comprehensive financial report as you've seen it, and we recommend approval of the annual comprehensive financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2024. And before that recommended motion, if anyone has any questions about that. If anybody has any questions related to the annual comprehensive financial report, I'm happy to answer those.
I have a question, Dan. And maybe I'm missing this somewhere, but on page 138, with regard to the FTE employees by function, is there somewhere else in here that I'm missing that includes folks who are not full-time employees, that are part-time employees, or by point percentages or that sort of thing?
I don't have the annual comprehensive financial report in front of me. Typically, we would aggregate by function, the line item. So you might see like 48.5, and that includes, as a hypothetical, that would include somebody that's a 1.0 and somebody that's a 0.5 in there. Do you have it listed by?
But you don't have, you only have the combined, right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
You don't have a breakdown for?
By individual, like every employee that is tied to a position. We typically would not have that in either our annual comprehensive financial report. That's not the level of detail that is asked for by, the government finance office, it's usually more of a roll-up for transparency purposes about how large your organization is, as opposed to every individual function. Our budget book also has more detail of FTE, and it would probably also be rolled up by function. If the board would like to see something a little bit more detailed, we could probably get that, although we don't have a position control system, so it is difficult to tie, at times, employees to various positions because there's a lot of movement and there's a lag on that because we're still manually doing a lot of that work. But we could certainly, if there's interest from the board, get you a more detailed FTE analysis.
I am curious about that. It would help me kind of understand the spread across these kind of larger buckets. If that's really easy. If it's not, then it sounds like it's a little more complicated than that. Maybe
I'm certainly happy to look into it. I think what you're asking for is an FTE more by classification.
Yeah.
How many FTE by teachers by grade or something like that. And then of course we have operational staff. I'm happy to look into it. If Dr. Cook has anything to add to it, I don't think that would be the hardest report to generate. It might just not be completely up to date.
We can generate that. It's not necessarily our CFO's responsibility. We're glad to provide some level of that, and we can get that to you in a short period of time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At this time,
I've got a question real quick.
Sure.
I noticed that the district's net position increased by 25% over last year, and I know that's an indicator of financial health, but can you explain just a little bit about, how the net position is actually calculated to show that?
That's a great question. I believe that I would actually need to go through it again. I apologize, but I can get you that information. I can do an update at the next board meeting to find out exactly how that net position has changed. We've had a lot of capital dollars and bonds going in and out, and
Right.
that can change the fluctuation of that significantly. So that is an excellent question, and that requires a better answer than I can give you right now. So I'm happy to go back and give you that.
I can speak a little to that, and that is, we have sold some of the bonds for the 2022 bond, but not all of them, and those were actuated in the 23 year, so those would have shown up on this year's audit. My anticipation, I don't want to say this is absolutely concrete, but that's the biggest change that would have happened during that fiscal year. We will have another opportunity to do that. We have not sold all the bonds at this point, but that would have been the largest change over the year prior.
That is also my intuition, but I think we can get you a breakdown of what those changes look like for net position. And you made a really good point earlier about the ending funding balance looking like it's significantly higher than at 24 million than the 16 million that we've budgeted. And although net position and what we're talking about budgeted ending fund balance are not necessarily the same thing from an accounting and budgeting perspective, it does reflect that we're looking that we have potentially more than the 5% reserve that we're estimating coming in as actuals. However, if you look at what our beginning fund balance is this year, we're still eating into the reserve by over 3 million. So we're still not, we are still not shored up per se. And I think our long-term forecast, when we do these quarterly reports, it's really talking about the fiscal year that we're in. So in the fiscal year we're in, we're projecting that we will lose $3 million in beginning fund balance. And I think our long-term projection, to answer your question more thoroughly, is that we would be projected to lose more of our beginning fund balance next year as inflationary costs increase at a greater rate than the state school fund pays us. So a lot of that excess beginning fund balance will not necessarily translate into the ending fund balance for next year's budget, if that makes sense. So.
And I would just add to that, that's one of the reasons why carrying a 5% reserve, no higher, no less, can be pretty stressful. Because that's pretty tight to the margins when you're talking about a $235 million general fund balance, and the fact that we're paying almost 3 full paychecks to every employee. Well, not every, most of our employees at the end of the school year, it can create some pretty tight financial conditions.
Absolutely, yeah. So I appreciate that. I just wanted to also say that I've read through a lot of these financial audits and over my career, and this was a really good one. You guys should be very proud of the work you did. I noticed the district received a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting last year, and that's a big deal. So you guys should feel good about the work you're doing.
Thank you, Director, and we'll submit this annual comprehensive financial report to the GFOA as well, which issues that certificate, and we fully intend to get another one for this fiscal year, for last fiscal year. So.
All right. At this time, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to accept the annual comprehensive financial report as presented.
I second.
Thank you. Director Olson has made the motion and Director Fisher has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? No? If not, I will now call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right. The ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
All right. I will now turn to Superintendent Cook for Resolution 1982. Executive summary.
Directors, before you is a resolution to affirm the rights of undocumented students in protocols for immigration and customs enforcement, otherwise known as ICE. A resolution 1982, this resolution to affirm the rights of undocumented students in protocols for immigration and customs enforcement. I would like to turn the mic over to Director Chadwick so that for reading of this particular resolution. Thank you.
Resolution number 1982, resolution to affirm rights of undocumented students and protocols for immigration and customs enforcement access to schools. Whereas Ben Lapine Schools is committed to providing a high-quality, equitable education for every student, creating a safe and inclusive environment where diversity is valued and celebrated. The district recognizes the strength of honoring the unique background of its students and families and believes that ensuring that our schools are safe and supportive for all students and their families is paramount to students being able to achieve. The district believes that defending this right to safe and healthy learning environments is legally required, educationally ethical, and consistent with the district's core values. Whereas Ben Lapine Schools believes the diversity of our students and families is a source of strength to be honored and reflected in our policies and practices. Whereas Ben Lapine Schools believes schools serve as safe spaces where students and families from all backgrounds feel protected, supported, and included, fostering environments where individuals feel a sense of belonging. Whereas Ben Lapine Schools students, staff, and families originate from many different countries outside the United States, federal and state law requires that all students be provided equal access to public education, regardless of their immigration status or that of their families or guardians. Whereas under Oregon law, ORS 1818.820, law enforcement agencies are prohibited from using public resources for the purpose of detecting or apprehending individuals whose only violation is being present in the United States in violation of federal immigration laws, subject to exceptions under that law. Whereas under Oregon laws, ORS 336.184.187, student educational records are protected from use for immigration action. Now therefore be it resolved that to the maximum extent permitted under law, the district shall prohibit disclosure without parent or guardian consent of student educational information, including the immigration status of any BLS student without appropriate local authority. Protect district staff and students' confidential information and ensure the learning environments are not disrupted by immigration enforcement actions. Direct any and all legal requests for staff employment records, student educational records, school property access relating to staff or student removal to be presented directly to the superintendent's office. Authorize the superintendent and/or legal counsel to ask for the ICE agent's credentials, the purpose of requesting access, and the legal validity of the request. Provide training and guidance to school staff on how to respond to ICE personnel who are requesting information about BLS staff, students, and families and/or attempting to enter BLS property. The district will also provide information about rights and protections and support for possibly impacted families. Provide information or assistance to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the enforcement of federal civil immigration law only if required by law. This includes providing immigration officials with access to school property beyond the front office only when presented with a valid court order, removing a staff or student for immigration law enforcement purposes only when presented with a valid court order or other legal authority, and inquiring about collecting or maintaining records related to immigration status.
At this time, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 1982 to affirm rights of undocumented students and protocols for immigration and customs enforcement, ICE, access to schools.
I second.
Thank you. Director Fisher has made the motion and Director Olson has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any calls for discussion, I will now call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it, 5-0. All right, I will now turn to Dr. Cook to present the administrative policies and regulations the district is reviewing.
As part of the administrative policy and regulation review process, the district is reviewing policy JECD-AP, assignment of students to classes. This administrative policy is new to the district and was created based on current district practices and OSBA sample policy. It defines the building administrator's role in assigning students to classes and outlines the process for change in classroom placement. This policy will be out for public feedback until January 28th. Additional information on policies and feedback process is available on the policy page of the district website. Depending on how this policy goes, it shall be returning potentially next month for your.
All right, any comments? Nope. Okay, so thank you. We will now hear the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Director Tatum. I have 5 items to discuss with you. They'll be quick. I saw that, Shirley. The first one is I just want to remind folks that next week, the long session begins next week. And I just want to remind folks that our representatives to the legislature are Emerson Levy, Jason Croft, and Anthony Broadman, Anthony was sworn in yesterday. And so I just want to remind folks, this is where so much of the district advocacy work will be happening, and just we are working on ways to keep folks attuned and updated to bills that might be proposed, discussions about funding, and all kinds of great things in the legislative session. I just want to draw special attention to that. That's number one. Number two, we are tomorrow, we will be doing our South County Advisory first thing in the morning, and that will be 10 sessions that we've participated in. We have 5 groups, if you will, and this is the second session of 4 that we'll be conducting this year. We are starting to get a lot of engagement in those, and we're starting to see some prevailing themes. We're going to be using that information. And one of the products that's going to come out of this, I'm very excited to share, is we're going to try to do a staff meeting, if you will, a virtual staff meeting that would allow all staff to participate if they're interested. And we'll be pulling that off sometime in the next roughly month or so. More information to come on that, but there's a lot of information there we're really excited to be sharing with our staff, and continuing to work on stakeholder engagement as we look for ways to have those dialogues. The third one is I just want to report that the SPED stipend, which I reported on last month, that report was filled out and turned in on Friday of last week by our team. And so just a reminder, that's $8.9 million that were allocated or earmarked, last session for recognition of staff who spend a large proportion of their time working with some of our highest need students. And then that 8.9 million would be spread out again across staff all over the state of Oregon. And those dollars will be earmarked, I think, in May, when that money will be sent. But we submitted that report to the state on Friday. And then my last item, I already talked about the staff meeting, so that counts as my fourth. My last one is next week we will be producing the after-action report on the Pilot Butte Middle School circumstance. We'll be making sure to loop you in on that report. We will be meeting with the Pilot Butte staff next week, and we will make sure that that report is available to all interested parties as we roll that out. If you recall, the after-action report is a strategy that we used starting last fall, was the formal release of this when we had the fires that were threatening Three Rivers schools and the schools in the La Pine area to some extent. And this is a part of the work with our communications team, and our safety department has really collaborated a lot with many of our community partners to put this one together. And there will be a lot of work going in on this one, and I look forward to that being released next week. Those are my 5 items for my superintendent's report. I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
Dr. Cook, I have a question with regard to the special education stipends. So the first year rollout, is it possible to gather feedback on how that works for this district and bring it back to the state? Because there might be, of course, some glitches here and there, and they're going to need some feedback on how that goes.
So there were glitches. The way that
Already.
the way that the way it was written created challenges in identification of staff, and that was a common occurrence across the state. And we've clearly articulated that to them, number one. And the second one, these are the two, that was the first one by far the most complicated. And the second one was the fact that this money was earmarked as a stipend and stipend alone, and that meant every single district across the state had to eat all the associated costs, which, as you know, for us, that's for all districts, that's about 40%. And so assuming everybody applies for this, our expected cost on this would be somewhere along the lines of $300,000. And so while it's a good idea and while it was an important recognition, the fact that associated costs weren't a part of this meant that every district had to eat those costs in their own general fund budget.
So that brings me to the question, Superintendent Cook, how much conversation have you had with our local legislatures, particularly the new elected, about the issue of unfunded mandates in legislation?
Yeah, as you all signed off on, right? Like that was a very high priority for our legislative advocacy work. And so I have had conversations with 2 of them. I have not had a chance yet to talk with Representative Broadman yet, as he is newly sworn in. And so looking forward to that. Reached out to him today and made contact with him, and I'm excited to share that. It will be a statewide discussion, and it is clear, we give examples like the new changes in the high school schedule changes that are expected to be rolled out in the next couple of years with financial literacy and careers classes. Just not even the financial impact of those 2 courses, but the fact that that will impact every elective course that's offered in our high schools. That will impact our career tech ed pathways. There are just so many unintended consequences of those kinds of things. Those are the dialogues that are happening all over the state right now. The light bulb example that I gave you about fluorescent light bulbs now being hazardous waste product. Those are the kinds of examples that we keep talking with them about is, look, good ideas that don't have either a financial backing behind them aren't necessarily good ideas when implemented.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
Might I ask where we are on our 2 administrative vacancies? I know they've been advertised.
We are down to finalists in one of them, and then the second one has not, I assume you're talking about the other interim position, is that?
Yes, and financial. In the financial position.
Do you want to address this? The financial position actually has been addressed. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So we've had, I'm not 100% sure which financial position you've had, but effectively, Leah Boudreau, as our finance director, left and is no longer with us. And during that time, I felt like it would be a good time to visit with staff and see what an effective structure might be. And we actually ended up restructuring. So we no longer have a finance director. We have 3 assistant directors that report directly to me. One is focused on accounting, and that is Matt Gaiman, and that has been filled. That's the most recent position that was filled. Nick Shane, who previously was managing accountant, is now going to be over budget. And then we have Jessica Hauser, who's over payroll and business operations. And so we did not do a finance director. We bumped those 3 positions to assistant finance director. It was actually net in terms of costs. The change actually saved the district about $5,000, but after spending about 50, 60 hours with staff, we think it'll be a much more effective structure and better long-term. So that has been filled. Thank you.
And I would just add that the interviews for the other position that we had discussed, the middle school director, executive director of middle school's position, those interviews are set for the end of this month on the 27th.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Cook. We will now open the floor for board comment. I will start with Director Tomlin online.
Thank you, Director Tatum. Yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciated all the presentations tonight. I'm definitely in a learning mode, and I'm enjoying all the new information that I'm getting in each board meeting. And I'm looking forward to being back there in person at the next meeting and continuing to learn even more. Also, just wanted to say I'm proud of the district taking a stance and approving the resolution to affirm the rights of undocumented students. It is something, it's important for us to do this, and hopefully we'll be in a position where we won't have to see it used. So, but important work. That's all I have.
Thank you. Director Olson?
I'd just like to comment and reinforce that Ben Lapine School District has the highest number of nationally certified teachers in the state. We are by 4, not the largest district, but we all know and we all have that confidence level in our staff, and it certainly shows. And it was a really nice recognition tonight.
Thank you, Director Olson. Director Fisher?
I'd like to echo Shirley on that, just that it's a lot of hard work and time and energy. And so when folks continue to maintain their certification, I really admire that. And congratulations to everybody who received that tonight. I also want to give a big shout out for the entire Ben Lapine team has been working on the policies, because scrolling through all of that, that's a lot of work and it's tedious, and I'm grateful for all of you who have been contributing. And then I'd also like to appreciate the number of community members who have sent emails and talked to me and caught me in different ways to talk about their feelings about devices in our schools. That I think it means a lot that we hear from our community members and that they feel that we are listening. And then also I want to echo Ross as well, that I'm grateful for Kinsey and the team to pull together that resolution for this January meeting. I think it's really meaningful for our district and our students' families and all involved. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Chadwick?
Yeah, I want to share thoughts and prayers with family and friends of Bradley Hughes, and especially the entire Ben Senior High community. We are holding you close to our hearts. And I also have gratitude towards Elliot and Quincy. Thank you for being here. It's so lovely to hear from you and to have students here. Your voices are very powerful. So yeah, really appreciate you. And similar to what other directors said, appreciating the district's continued support of undocumented students, families, and staff. happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will just echo what all of the other directors have said. I'm appreciative for this district, for our schools, and I hope that, there's a lot of change, I think, coming. And I just want all of our students and our staff to know that as a board, I think I speak for all of us when I say everyone has a right to exist in our schools. And I think that's the message we need to continue to carry forward so that everyone feels welcome, appreciated, and that they have the ability to love and grow and learn and feel safe in our schools. And so with that, our next meeting is a work session scheduled for January 28th, 2025. And our next regular business meeting is scheduled for February 11th, 2025. And with that said, this meeting is adjourned.